And we are back on the Forever Better podcast. And it is Thursday the 18th of June. It's 9:30 p.m. It's just after 9:30 p.m. So it's a late one because we're officially back working. So we had 2 days at work. So yeah, I guess our schedules changed, but we got to do what we got to do in order to make an income, and we've got to do what we have to do to in order to keep this podcast going. Which I've already spoken about in saying that it's definitely has to be one of my top priorities. I'm enjoying it so much. But yeah, 2 days. We've officially been back at work for 2 days now, um, which is definitely interesting. Um, and I kind of been back in it, doing a little bit of exercise, and I think I spoke about this before, but getting back into it, I feel like I'm just starting fresh. I feel like now I kind of I'm feeling like I know what it feels like to be one of those people that are haven't been to the gym in so long and just are struggling to get back into it. Because I'm over here, I'm trying to do a little bit of exercise. I'm on something like the chest press. I'm on the chest press and I put like two 20 kilo plates on each side. Do 10 reps. All of a sudden I'm feeling lightheaded. Or same thing with the shoulder press. Two 20 kilo plates on each. Two 20 kilo plates, and all of a sudden, I'm feeling all lightheaded. And it's got to be, it's definitely not because I'm weak. It's definitely not because I'm weak, because your boy's got that Pinoy power in him. He's got that Pinoy power running through his veins. So it's definitely not because I'm weak. It's just one of those things because I haven't been training for so long. I'm just it's a struggle. Um, yeah, just doing a few different exercises. It's just been such a struggle. I've probably had like three workouts, this week, and that's the most moving I've done in the past 3 months. I feel like it. Um, Especially with my first day back at work. So my first day back at work yesterday on Wednesday. So I was scheduled to work from 9 p.m. 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. If we include travel time, we add an extra hour to get there, an extra hour to get home. So let's call that a 12-hour day. But you get to a certain point because I just haven't been doing much for the past 3 months. It's like a certain point where everything just hit me, and even the night before I was like, all right, I got to get up at 7 a.m. But I got to get up 7 a.m. So I better go to bed early. My normal 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Bedtime isn't going to work. But obviously, still struggled to get to sleep. Tossed and turned, trying to get to sleep for a good hour and a half, and it was a struggle to get up. Because it's so cold now in the morning. Um, but yeah, there was just a certain part or time in the day where it was just everything just hit me. I was running a class, and I've got the energy high, like come on, let's go, come on, let's go, and then all of a sudden it was just like just start yawning. Say one thing and just start yawning. It's just like the most tired during the day that I've ever been. Not that ever been that I've been in a while. Um, so yeah, look, it's definitely different to finally have to wake up and go somewhere. It's a different feeling. I got to get used to it again. So um, if you ask me if I'm enjoying being back at work, a lot of people ask you that. Oh, now that you're back, are you enjoying that? It's like I'm kind of like it is what it is. I mean, if at one point in time they if they said oh, gyms aren't going to be open for the rest of the year, I'd have just been like, meh, you know, meh, it is what it is. I mean, if they said, yeah, you're not allowed, no one's allowed to work out, even all the parks and everything like that, where all the people do all the pull-ups, even if that's closed for the rest of the year, I still would have been like, eh, mm. If they said, yeah, no more gyms in New South Wales for the rest of the year, mm, it is what it is. It's just one of those things where I just felt like I adapted to what life was during lockdown. So at that point in time, it was just like I have zero emotion towards this whole situation. I adapted I feel like I adapted so well, so I just had zero emotion. So if people ask me if I'm excited to be back at the gym, it's just like, it is what it is, man. Zero emotion towards it. If if they told me like yeah, it's just one of those. If I wasn't allowed to work out, if I couldn't work out for the rest of the year, I was just, all right, cool, man. I'll find something else to do. Um, but yeah, it's just, and I know I previously was talking about like I was trying to predict what would happen once gyms reopen because it was, it could only be one of three scenarios. And, after 2 days there, it's, I don't see everyone rushing back to go to the gym. And I'm not just talking about where I work, I'm talking about, a lot of other gyms, like people that I've spoken to as well, that are at different gyms. There's not a lot of people rushing back. There's not a lot of people rushing back, and that could be just because, they're just waiting to see what happens. They still might be scared, and the fact that it's winter, because naturally in winter, gyms do kind of tend to be a little bit more quieter. So yeah, it's just it's struggling to get back into this routine. Um, when I was, it just felt weird being at work. It felt weird being in a gym. It, some people might think it was like, being at the gym kind of made life feel a little bit more normal. But, I mean, to me, it was just, I've seen more people, at the grocery store. I've seen more people at the shops. So being near that many people wasn't a big deal, you know. Um, like at one point in time, there was, at any one point in time, there's not like a lot of people in the gym, anyways. So it's nothing. Doesn't make me feel any certain way, I guess you can say. Um, maybe that's because during the lockdown, during this whole or during the past 3 months, maybe that's because I found a love for podcasting. I guess you can kind of say that. So that's why everything else kind of feels a little bit more mediocre. So I mean, it could be just a number of different things. Um, but yeah, it's just you know nothing special. And I guess this was kind of like the answer that I was kind of waiting for a couple months. What would happen once gyms reopen? Like what would the reaction be? Like would everyone flock to the gym? Would people not want to go? Would people still be scared? Or would people just they already bought the stuff that they had, they already bought like equipment that they could use at home, and would that be enough for them? So I finally got my answer, like in terms of the actual response over the past 2 days. It's nothing special. I mean, you get your like 3 or 4 people that will join, but with all the gyms that I've worked at, that's just a regular week. That's just a regular week. And there's just times where it's just like there might be just one person at the gym. There might be no people in there. So definitely nothing. It definitely wasn't like a big celebration once the gyms reopened. It wasn't a big celebration. If you looked at just social media, it might have been. You've got your regulars. The ones that go consistently throughout the year. Of course, they were going to come back. Of course, they were going to upload. A back to the gym selfie, or gyms are open again selfie, or just Snapchat or anything like something like that. But for your people that probably joined their first gym this year, or just joined, or came back, or joined the gym after first time in a couple of years, you don't see them back. So in terms of like the reaction from not just people that are consistent gym goers, just the overall reaction to gyms opening, it was, I guess it's, I guess you can say it's a little bit underwhelming. And if you kind of look at things, it's like there's no real like, crazy promotions that gyms are putting on, and I think maybe they kind of anticipated it, because normally you see like a New Year promotion, something like that. But no one's doing anything crazy, so maybe the actual gyms anticipated that they weren't going to do anything too crazy for everything reopening. Um, but yeah, it's just different to be back at work. It's definitely different. Um, you know, I guess the positive is just A, we've got an income, and B, we've got something to do throughout the day. We're not just being lazy, waking up whenever we want, rolling off the bed straight onto the couch. So I guess there's always some positives, I guess, in this situation. Um, but I mean, guess I feel like now we can say lockdown's officially over, right? I guess now you can say that lockdown is officially over, and to kind of I wouldn't say celebrate, but to commemorate this, I guess I'm gonna give you my top three lockdown MVPs. Like, what are your guys' top three lockdown MVPs, or what is your lockdown MVP? And when I say lockdown MVP, I'm talking about, what's the, what's the highlight? What kind of got you through lockdown? What became your favorite thing during lockdown? What did you do to kind of pass time? Did you find a new hobby? Did was it a TV show that you watched? So yeah, that's your lockdown MVP. So I mean, I guess let me start at number three. My third, my lockdown MVP number three, I guess you can say was look, let's give that one to Netflix. Let's give it to the Netflix documentaries. Um, you know, the when lockdown kind of started, you had Tiger King. Now, at that point in time, Tiger King was, all we heard about was Tiger King. We don't hear shit about Tiger King now. So you had that, but and the thing was, I was loving Tiger King when that thing came out. Now, with that, was Tiger King as good as we all thought? Tiger King was a shit back when he came out, but was it as good as we all thought, or was it just perfect timing? I mean, sure, if that Tiger King series with Nicolas Cage comes out, of course I'm going to watch it, but was it as good as we all thought, or was it just perfect timing? Lockdown just started, and the first 2 weeks of lockdown were the most boring weeks. We just felt like we had so much time on our hands, we weren't doing shit. So those were the two most boring weeks. So was it just a good documentary, or was it just perfect timing? I mean, I enjoyed it. But then, and at that point in time, I was like, oh, Tiger King's the best. Tiger King's the best. You got to watch it. Everybody got to watch it. But then, a couple of weeks later, The Last Dance came out, and then now all of a sudden, The Last Dance is like the greatest shit ever. And it definitely was a well done documentary. And that was a good 5 weeks. 2 episodes a week for 5 weeks. So that's got to be in the lockdown MVP list. But yeah, definitely, I feel like those were like such good documentaries. It's definitely got to get a mention. You had the Jeffrey Epstein documentary as well. I don't think that was as good, but definitely Netflix documentaries. You got to give it to them. They kind of helped with the lockdown, with all the time that we had on our hands. So they get my third spot on the list. Now, number two. So my number two lockdown MVP. I feel like it's my top two. I'm gonna give it to. Man, it's tough. But I think I'm gonna give it to the UFC. Because obviously there was no real sports going on. Because once they figured you can't have crowds and everything, sports slowly started to die down. and just to completely stop. Um, and then the UFC came along, and they decided to just start putting on fights without any audiences, and it wasn't just one card; it was just like 3 cards in a week. So we're talking about like over 20 fights within the week, and the fights that they were putting on were just so good, so high level. It was always just like their biggest stars that were on, and it's just been consistent. You know, Normally when you watch some UFC, there are some cards that just don't deliver. Like they're still entertaining, and I'll watch the shit out of them. But there are just some cards that don't deliver. It's just constant decision, split decision. Like just they're not the greatest fights. But this time around, it didn't matter who was fighting. It was just all the fights were just good. It was just it was just the most entertaining thing ever. And like I said, I watched the shit out of it. If it's 5 hours long, I'll watch the shit out of that. If it's 2 hours long, I'll watch the shit out of that. Whoever's fighting, I'm gonna watch the shit out of it. It's just UFC is just one of those things where I just find that entertaining as hell. Um, and like I said before, I just don't want to miss an event. If someone asks me out, you better be someone special, because otherwise I'm going to choose UFC over you. So that's definitely number 2. And I think UFC's on this weekend as well, so I'm gonna watch the shit out of that. So that's my number 2. Now my number 1. So this is tough, but I'm going to. Number 1 is going to be a tie. Number 1 is going to be a tie. So there's going to be 2 things here. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention, number 1, will be, of course, is the podcast. And I feel like I constantly say this. I probably constantly repeat, but for those of you that don't listen to every episode, this podcast is just. I don't know. I feel like I got people to talk. I sound like the biggest loser, but I feel like I got someone to talk to, and it just helps. I feel like people that write in journals, like whatever feeling you get when you write in a journal. Like I'm not one of those. I don't write in the journal, but I bet, like I'm sure there's people out there that write in journals, and that's just like a way that they express themselves and kind of like get things off their chest, and it makes them feel some type of pleasure. I feel like that's what I get by podcasting. I get that same type of pleasure, and I'm not saying like I'm aroused or I'm turned on or anything like that, but it's like, yeah, it's one of them feel good things. I feel like it's one of those, like when someone finds a hobby and they're like, yeah, this is my shit. When maybe when, I guess you can say when someone finds their purpose in life. That's like that type of feeling I get on that podcast. It's given me another reason. It's given me another escape. Like, I mean, back in the day, I used to say, going to the gym and working out. When I was in the gym, when I was working out, whatever problem I had, whatever thing that was stressing me out, it's just, I don't feel it anymore. Like, that's, whatever that is, it's just, for that hour and a half that I'm in the gym, I've completely forgotten about that. And I feel like podcasting, when I'm doing a podcast, when I'm recording a podcast, that's when I'm in my happy place. So that's why I can kind of relate it. So, like, yes, it's given me a hobby. It's just another thing in my life that I love to do. It's one thing in my life that I don't feel like I'm going to stop doing for. I mean, I want to say for forever. It's just, I can't see myself stopping doing this within the next 2 months. I can't see myself stopping doing this within the next year, within the next 2 years. It's, yeah, man, it's just giving me some type of pleasure. I just, and obviously I recorded that podcast on Monday, and I knew I was starting work, and I just didn't know when I was going to record. And I just find myself thinking about, I need to record, I need to do the podcast. It's, man, it's just, if you've ever found a hobby in your life that just brings you so much joy, then I feel like you will know how I feel. If you haven't found something in your life that has brought you so much joy, like a hobby in your life that has brought you so much joy, then I hope that you find it, and then you'll understand how I feel, you know. So definitely the podcast is my number one lockdown MVP. Like I said, though, number one was a tied slot. Number one was a tied spot, and number one is a funny one. I've kind of talked about this before. I might need a sneeze soon. I feel like my nose is about to sneeze, but don't worry, guys. It's not corona. Um, Tied with number one is Facetiming PYT. It's PYT. It's not a plural. There was only one PYT. And obviously, because I was like, I'm not scared. I wasn't scared. I'm still not scared. To go out there and you know meet with someone face to face. Like, I mean, I'm just gonna go quickly off tangent here. But even like the other day I went to the shops and I went to Culture Kings and I know one of the boys that works there. So when I saw him, it was just straight. It wasn't. It was just straight like a bro shake. When you just slap some guy's hand and you kind of go in for a shoulder. It was just straight bro shake. There wasn't any hesitation. It's like, oh, should we touch hands? Should we just fist bump? Should I give you the elbow? Like, none of that bullshit. It was a straight, hey man, what's up? Boom, fucking straight into a bro shake, and just that's the type of shit that I fucking love. Fucking two fucking grown ass men, not being pussies, just going in for a straight bro shake, not thinking twice about it. That's just the type of shit that I like. You know, if you come up to me and you're like, oh, what about an elbow? Like, fucking stick your elbow up your ass, man. Don't give me that shit. Quit being a little fucking pussy. And but what was I talking about? FaceTime and PYT. That's what I'm talking about. And yeah, I mean, because we were, during lockdown, I was just in this mood where I was longing for the human connection. And don't give me a phone call, FaceTime me. Let me see that pretty young thing. Let me see that pretty face of yours. And, it's just little things like that. When you can have a conversation with someone for like 3 hours, on FaceTime, 3 hours, 2 hours on FaceTime every night, then shit, man, that shit is right up my alley. And it's not, don't get me, it's one of those things because, like, obviously there's other being people that would, like, talk to me, but I mean, if we're only talking for like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, it's like, nah, man. I want that fucking long conversation shit. You know what I'm saying? So definitely FaceTiming, the pretty young thing, was my highlight of lockdown because we'd be FaceTiming until like say midnight or something, and because I don't go to sleep till like until like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. That's quality entertainment. If you're talking to someone for 3 hours, 2 hours on FaceTime, I mean, if you're talking for that long, it's got to be quality entertainment. It's got to be quality conversation. You can't just be staring at each other for 2 3 hours, being on some weird shit like that, looking into each other's eyes for 2 3 hours. I mean, yeah, I'm not too sure what the fuck that is, but I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about half the time, anyways. But there you have it, folks. However you say that, I've never said that before, but it's late, so I think that's why that came out of my mouth. It's late, and I'm just tired as hell, I guess you can say. But that's my lockdown MVP, man. My lockdown MVPs, I guess you can say. So, and I mean, I guess now that I'm looking back at it, now that the lockdown is done, it's. I mean, it was nice, It was kind of nice to take a break, and I feel like that break has kind of made everybody realize what's important to them. So I mean, if you're coming out of this break, this lockdown, with new goals, um, then I feel like that's completely normal. And I think I said it before. I feel like a lot of people are going to change their career after this. A lot of people have actually found out what will make them happy, and it's probably not the same thing as what was making them happy prior to everything closing. And the thing is, I understand, I completely understand, because do I feel that way? I mean, obviously I found new happiness in my life, so I mean, I completely understand. Um, but yeah, it's at the end of this at the end of the day, even though I wasn't making an income for the past 3 months, I'm still grateful for the lockdown. I'm grateful for the past 3 months because it has made me realize a lot of things. Um, but yeah, you know, it's yeah. I don't know. I think I'm definitely a happier person now. I'm 100% a happier person coming out of lockdown. It's made me realize a lot. But I'm gonna wrap it up there. Hope you all are good, staying safe, healthy, and happy. But see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.